been getting asked a lot recently all about podcast release forms. I'm actually surprised how many times this question gets brought up. So it's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right to it. Hey y'all, Crystal here today, and we're going to talk about podcast release forms. Now, before we get started on anything, I want to make very clear that this is not legal advice, okay? I am not certified or all the things that have to do with legal advice. This is just my experience with podcast guesting and hosting a podcast. So I'm going to recommend that you seek legal advice to act upon any of the contracts or any way that you want to use any of the information that you watch here in this video. Okay, I just wanted to get that out of the way. That was my disclaimer that I'm not a lawyer. I don't handle all the legal things, but I do have some advice for you as a podcast host on how you can use release forms for your show. Now, let's go ahead and get all of the disclaimers out of the way, right? Like, since we're already going on this path, but I actually don't use release forms for my podcast, the Proffitt Podcast. So this surprises a lot of people whenever they're like, what? But you teach this. You're a podcast expert and you're telling me that you don't have release forms? And I say, I don't really need them, simply because the people that I have on my show are either people I already know pretty well, people that have been pre-vetted by a few of the guesting services that I use on a regular basis, so they're trusted sources, or I just don't feel like I should let someone onto my show that it's a blind pitch. I've never heard of them. They've never heard of me. That just kind of makes me feel uncomfortable anyway. So I don't use release forms simply because I don't think that I need them. I go above and beyond before someone actually gets behind the microphone and is hanging out with me to have a conversation. So I wanted to give you that disclaimer first, but I'm not against them. Okay, so let's dive into the ways that you can use podcast release forms for your show. So the first solution that I have to offer you is have your guest sign a release form whenever they're scheduling their interviews. So I use the app Calendly. You can actually watch this video right here, all about how I set up my podcast interviews and what that process looks like. But you could simply add a step in the interview process that asks the guest, hey, are you okay with us recording this conversation? Or if you have something that goes above and beyond that, then you could have that baked into the process. Or maybe after they schedule their interview, they're sent a follow-up email, because I do know that Calendly recently released what's called workflows. So you could set up an automation where I schedule a podcast interview on your show, and then I'm immediately send an email that says, hey, we're so excited to have you on the show. Could you please fill out this quick survey or whatever form it is before your interview date? It makes it easy on you as the podcast host, but also on your guests, because there's not a lot of back and forth with you and your team as you're getting your podcast scheduled. So that's the first thing, is just bake it into the process that you already have set forth for your podcast. Now, I mentioned that you could send them a form, so I wanted to talk about some of the solutions that I have seen people try on other podcasts I've been a part of, because even if I don't have them for my show, I've had to sign them for other podcasts that I've done. I've seen people use Google Forms, which they used kind of like a survey, put your name, your email, the name of your podcast if you have one, or maybe your social links, your bio. It'd be a great place to submit a headshot. It kind of just takes care of a lot of the interview process anyway that's going to happen on the back end. But you could also throw in some questions like, hey, we're going to ask questions about this topic. Are you okay with that? Yes or no? Or do you consent to having your interview sent out across multiple social media platforms or whatever, and you could even have something in there that says, we allow you to take the interview down at some point in the future if you don't agree with the content anymore. But I want you as the host to remember that this is your content at the end of the day. And we're going to get into some of the ethical things, right or wrong, that we can do as hosts. But I want you to figure out a system for you to collect the information in a form. So like I said, you can use Google Form. Another one that I've used as a guest on someone else's show is Typeform. So that's another one that you can look into. I don't know if the pricing varies on which one you use, a free versus a paid version, but there are a lot of options out there for you to explore. You could even just have a Google document that you convert to a PDF and you send to them and say, hey, can you electronically sign this? This is our podcast release form. Whatever works best for you, whatever platform you feel most comfortable using. But if you're going to use a podcast release, make sure it's legit. Like, go the extra mile to make it look nice and make it look professional. So I want you to tell me in the comments below, do you have solo only episodes, or do you actually do interviews only? Or do you do a mixture of both? I'm really curious to see what kind of people are in the audience, what type of podcasters, because we are working on creating future content, and I've seen a lot of solo podcasters out there. So shout out to you that are doing it all by yourself. But if we want to see more content about interviews and how the processes of setting up interviews work, then I want to know in the comments below. So tell me whether you have a solo, interview, or mixed in the comments below. Okay, let's get back to the video. And the last thing I'll say about podcast release forms is, at the end of the day, you should do what you feel right about. So for me, if I did have a podcast release form that I sent to all of my guests and I said, hey, fill this out, then we actually conducted an interview. And then afterwards, they came to me, my guest, and said, I don't feel comfortable with that content being out in the world anymore. Maybe they overshared a story that they wish they wouldn't have in hindsight. Me, as the content creator, I would probably take it down. I really would. Or I would just cut out that piece that they thought was an overshare. That is my perspective and how I handle my content at the end of the day. Like I said, this was not meant to serve as legal advice or anything that would, misconstrue me as being someone that says this is legal, this is not legal based on where you are. But I think that ethically speaking, if someone asks you to take something down, I just would, out of the integrity of making sure that someone didn't say too much about something that maybe they shouldn't have. So those are my 2 thoughts, my 2 cents on how that works. But if you have any other questions about podcast releases, what to put in them, what goes in them, tell me in the comments below and let's start a conversation so we can answer more questions like this. Because like I said, I get asked this question all the time. So I want to know where specifically you feel stuck in the process. But that's all I have for you for this video. So if this is your first time tuning in to our channel, make sure you subscribe below in the video description. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and tell us that you like this video and you want to see more content just like this. Make sure you check out these other videos right here, all about podcasting and running your online business. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.